Howdy, y'all. Red.olaughlin here, USA Global TV and Radio Network, Talking Heads. I am so excited. This is number 6 of the presentations we're doing on brain health and mental illness. It seems like most of the ones that are being put out, I get to the very end and I'm still presenting data. And today, it's just a summary. We're going to go back and review a few things. Most of the hardcore information, the really good stuff that you need to know is in the previous sections, and they're fairly easy to find. But today we're just going to go ahead and talk about the summary of what's good brain health. How do you know when you may not have as healthy a brain that you probably should have? What are some of the mental illnesses and what's the commonality of them? And so we're going to go a little bit into detail about that and try to have a little fun, even though mental illness is not a fun topic. Learning, I think, is a good topic, and that's something that I really and truly enjoy doing. So let me go ahead and get my first slide up here and make an adjustment. I'm a researcher. I fell in love with chemistry way back when in high school. I got a degree in it, never got a chance to practice it because I got an invitation to Vietnam. Decades roll by. My wife has breast cancer. All of a sudden, I'm back in looking at cellular solutions to problems that exist. And I found kind of a niche that we don't typically see that, well, if this happens and this happens and this happens, then this other result comes from it. Well, that's what I explore. I look at what happens at the cellular level. What can you do to accelerate something, to decelerate it, to stop it? And in some cases, it really makes sense. In other cases, it's very convoluted, and there might be a problem that has 8 different pathways, 8 different train tracks going in that same direction. And when the doctor gives you a pill, it may fix one of those train tracks, but you still have 7 other locomotives heading toward that disease or whatever it may happen to be. So that's what I love to do, is find out how many ways can this thing happen and what can we do about it? So this cause and effect relationship is something that I think is important, because doctors have a moral and a legal obligation when they find a problem to solve it. And their solutions are generally pills. It may be you break an arm and you got to go in for surgery and they fix whatever that is, or they remove an organ because it's diseased. But in most cases, when there is a problem, you got a headache, they're going to give you a pill. And so that's not addressing the cause of the problem. That's addressing the symptoms. And if you're not fixing a problem, the symptoms will remain forever. I do not have a medical background. I do not have a pharmaceutical background, but I have a love of chemistry, and I have a passion of being able to dive into something and learn about it and share it in fairly common language that most people understand. So moving right along here, if I can get to slide number 2, there we go. We've been using the same definition all along. What is a mental illness? Mental illnesses are health conditions that involve changes in our emotional, our thinking, our behavioral patterns. Sometimes these things are associated with distress or other problems functioning. We can't function in our social world, our work environment, with family activities. And sometimes these mental illnesses come from genetics. They come from our family. Sometimes it might be an injury, traumatic brain injury, post-traumatic stress syndrome, or just an injury, a car injury, and we get things shaking about here, there, and yonder, and all of a sudden things just aren't operating the way they should. So if we keep the same basic definition, then let's go into what is brain health. It's not just the absence of disease. It's more of being fully functional, capable across all our sensory, our eyes, ears, smell, toes, taste, everything, our cognitive abilities, our social and emotional behavior. Are we operating properly in the environment? And our motor skills. Can we balance ourselves? Can we run? Can we, touch our fingers, and whatever those motor skills require, typing, etc. So if everything is working right, you have good brain health. So let's dive into that topic a little bit. And what are some of the things that tell us that we have a good healthy brain? Well, one of the first ones is if we have a let it go attitude. We ignore what's unimportant. Sometimes something happens and we hang on to that bad memory, unpleasant experience, somebody slighted us, and Why? You know, if it's something that is really and truly critical for our life, yeah, maybe we need to know a little bit more. But do we need to hang on to something that's so negative that it really shows in a change of our personality or a change of our mood? So uh, I took a 500-mile walk across Spain about 6, 7 years ago, and I started out day one. I said, "This is my let it go tour. Anything that happens, I am going to just let it go." And I must have said let it go about 1,500 times that first day because things really went awry in a hurry. But regardless, sometimes you just have to say out loud, let it go, and just let it go. One of the things I talked about this morning at a presentation I was doing at a networking luncheon was that you can smile to reduce stress. You can do this, but sometimes you have this person, maybe a relationship, a boss, a coworker, just somebody you meet periodically, and you just see them coming and you want to turn around and walk the other way. Sometimes you can't get rid of that stress. But if you take and write their name, take your finger and just write their name on the palm of your hand, look at it, recognize that person, see that person, and then just take and just throw that your hand up into the air and magically let that name fly off the skin of your hand and just float into space and just go evaporate into the ether. You'd be amazed at one little thing of being able to allow you to disassociate. You can let go of a lot of things. Another good aspect of mental health, good mental health, is good quality sleep. If you lay down at night and you're not asleep in a relatively short period of time, there's something causing it. It might be you ate too late, had too much to drink, but if the thoughts in your brain is going over and over again on the same thing, something happened at work, something happened at home, something, whatever it is, that same thought occurs and occurs and occurs and chances are that's a stressor. It's a clue. Something's causing your sleep not to be good. There are ways around that. Emotional freedom techniques is one that I prefer to use. Emotional freedom techniques, just go to Google or YouTube, probably is a better one because you can actually watch somebody go through the tapping of various parts of their body and the mantra you use. But sometimes you taking a sleep aid is not the best thing to go to sleep because it doesn't give you the quality of sleep you want. But sleep is the place, is the time your body just regenerates, rejuvenates. It fixes everything. It's the repair function. And if you're not getting a good quality sleep, you're interrupting that. Emotional control, sort of like letting things go. But sometimes things happen and we just burst off the handle. Um, my father was one who just, it almost like an inverse switch. If something happened, boom, it wasn't even a half a second and he would blow up. Well, at that point in time in my life as a preteen and a teenager, I didn't want to have that same uh, experience. So things happen and I kind of take them for a brief analysis before I react to them. Now, sometimes you kind of see things coming and, okay, tell me what's going on. But emotional control is being able not to allow that situation to control your actions. And so if you have control of your emotions, you're generally pretty good brain health because that's part of what the brain does. Sometimes we have a strong ability to focus on things. And when we look at each one of these, if I don't have good quality sleep, it's probably my brain health is not as good as it should be if I don't have emotional control. So each one of these good brain checklist items are just as important for the unhealthy brain. So if you're not getting the good quality sleep, okay, that's maybe a check mark for, okay, maybe I'm not having as good a brain health as I can have. So I look at the thing here now as a strong ability to focus. And this is not just being able to focus on something. Let's say I'm doing a crossword puzzle, or I'm doing Sudoku, or I'm reading, or whatever I am doing, and for some extended period of time. Now, some of us can focus for 5 or 10 seconds, for a minute, 2 minutes, but sometimes we need to be able to study something for a while or to do something for a while. And if we don't have that ability to just focus in on what we're doing and keep our focus there, then that's probably a symptom. Again, any single one of these things, not a problem. If you happen to have a bunch of them, maybe now we have something we want to talk about. We'll cover that a little bit here. But if you can't focus for extended period of times well, then maybe there might be a minor issue. If ironically, our brain is the one that tells every part of our body what to do, how to run, how to stand up, how to sit down, everything. So if we don't have strong balance, there's something not connecting well in the brain and in all the muscles in the body in order to have us absolutely stand perfectly still or get up on our whatever it may happen to be. But balance is a major portion of being able to assess, do we have a healthy brain? Obviously, a strong memory. When you say, do you have a healthy brain? First thing people think of, can I remember things? Well, yeah, forgetfulness as you get older, it's one of those things. Where do the car keys go? But it's one of the things that if you have a good, strong memory, now I'll be one of the first to admit I can't tell you somebody's face and name. That's not one of those skills that I'm very good at. I'm still working on it. But generally speaking, if I see something, I read it, I can tell you, oh, it's a third of the way down the page, probably about page 57. If it's a number on a page, equation, that's, my brain focuses on the math and the science and those things. That's where I have very good memory. But if you're finding that, who was my teacher in fourth grade? Is it important? Was it important back then? What are you trying to keep in memory? Feeling young is another aspect of being able to say you have good brain health. Our brains mature up to about the age of 22, 24 years of age. They don't really mature much beyond that. So your brain is already locked in the mid 20s. And if you're thinking you're in the 40s and 50s or in the doldrums or your 60s and 70s, who's that person in the mirror that you're looking at? But feeling young is different than looking young. It's a different aspect of our brain capacity. You may not be able to do what you used to do, but do you feel young? And that's a qualitative assessment you have to make. Another good symptom of good brain health is, can you make decisions quickly? Can you solve problems? Whatever you used to be able to do way back when, can you still do it? I remember practicing for some advanced math test that I was doing, and one of the things I was doing was trigonometric solutions, geometric solutions, things that were super simple way back when. And it took me maybe a couple days to get back in the rhythm. Okay, I can see how everything is juxtaposed, how everything interfaces. But we don't necessarily lose our problem solving skills unless our brains are really and truly starting to degrade a little bit. So that's a good measure. Do you make decisions quickly? Are they good decisions? A lot of times we can make a decision, but is it the right decision at the time? If you're trying to solve a problem, can you recognize that you have all the information that you need in order to solve that problem? So these are just little things that kind of indicate, yeah, all these things are check marked yes. Then you probably have a good healthy brain. Our brain is tied to so many other parts. Good cardiovascular health ties to the brain. Good gut health ties to the brain. How do you know you have good gut health? Well, are your bowel movements consistent? You're not too much diarrhea, too much constipation, blood in the feces. I mean, there's some obvious things there. If you're only going to the bathroom every 3 days, but you're eating every day, maybe that's a clue. So our gut health is something that really and truly, our gut is our second brain. We've gone through this in this presentation, I think number 2 or number 3 of this particular series, of how the gut affects our brain, how it affects our emotions, how it affects our depression, anxiety. There's a lot of things there that our gut, when it's interrupted, actually creates a problem. And so, are you getting the probiotics you need from the food you're eating? Are you taking supplemental probiotics? And if you're taking probiotics, are you taking prebiotics, the fertilizer for those probiotics to work? If your doctor says, I need to put you on this antibiotic for a while, first question that I ask is, okay, when can I take probiotics? If I'm taking this every 12 hours, every 6 hours in between, can I take a probiotic to get some of that good gut flora back into my system? And so you don't want something that's killing everything that's in your gut, because it can take a long time to get that back into a norm. Ironically, one of the things that is a good indication of good brain health, just like balance, is being able to have a strong grip. Now, I've been accused of having too strong a grip. Sometimes I learned that, okay, you put your hand out there, you want a firm grip, but it's not necessarily a strong grip. So there's a little difference between firm and strong. But if you have a good strong grip, again, your brain is communicating to your hand what your doing and also getting the feedback from the other person. Is it too strong? Are you hurting somebody else? Those are things that you need to be able, but having a good, strong grip is an indicator of a good, healthy brain. I'll tell you right now, I am a fast walker. I don't know where it came from. I always have been. It's just one of those things that if I'm walking, my wife, if I'm on the phone talking and we're walking outside, all of a sudden I'm 50 feet in front of her because I just go into automatic walk mode and I'm not even paying attention. But a fast walker is ironically an indication of good brain health. Your body is on automatic drive and it's doing its normal walking. Now, if I have to walk slow, I think I'm in purgatory because I'm enduring something that I just really and truly don't like doing is a slow walk. Regardless, if you're a fast walker, you got a good strong grip, good indications of good brain health. If you're eating well, you don't have to eat 3 meals a day to eat well. You can eat 2 meals a day and be fine. You can eat 1 meal a day and be perfectly healthy. If you're eating 4, 5, 6, 7 meals a day, you're never giving your liver a chance to fully do its job. You're introducing more issues that, a lot of nutritionists say, hey, you need 5 small meals a day. Well, I'm telling you right now, it's a whole lot better to fast intermittently, 15, 16, 18 hour, 20 hours a day. If you can get 2 meals into a 6 hour window or an 8 hour window and fast for that other amount of time, you're great. I do a 72 hour fast every month that usually ends up at 100 plus hours. Uh, so it's, but if, and eating well, I'm eating nutritionally balanced meals. I'm talking about caloric restriction. You're not eating as much as you probably should. There are some nutritional guides that says you should have 15 calories per pound to maintain body weight. If you want to have a nice, long, healthy life and trying to reduce age-related diseases, something around that 10 calories per anticipated body weight is probably a better target. It's called caloric restriction. Do you have a fit body? Do you look good? Are you carrying an extra 3 or 4 inches around your gut? Uh, these are the can you do what you need to do with your body? These are things that happen every single day, and your brain is in charge. And that's one of those little things. So if you're 60, 70 pounds overweight, but all the rest of everything's there, well, yeah, that's one aspect of your health you need to work on. But if you can't do what you want to do and you're 50, 60 pounds overweight, yeah, maybe that's a clue. Do you have good friends? We talk about aging and socializing with other people when you're in that, especially in COVID, when you're pulled out of being able to socialize, it affects you, affects your emotions, it affects your brain. It actually affects your brain health. And so having good friends, having those relationships, whether on Zoom, on the phone, going back and forth in social media, writing, whatever it may happen to be. Are you meeting them at various activities? But having good friends, having that relationship, whatever activities you do, walking, having people over for dinner, whatever it is, that is an indicator of exceptionally good brain health. Do you have regular checkups? This wasn't on the list of things that I was researching, but if you don't know where you are, how do you know there's a change? Is your blood pressure changing? Is your heart rate the same as it was 3 years ago? CRP stands for C-reactive protein. When you have inflammation in the body's going to create a protein. It's called C-reactive protein. And if you have it measured, it's a very simple blood test. Is it high? Anything over 0 up to a certain point, 2 or 3 is probably okay. But if it starts getting to be 5, 6, 10, 15, 20, there's a problem. Something in the body is causing inflammation. Left unchecked, you're going to end up with oxidative stress. That's where a lot of diseases start to begin to get a hold because of that inflammation is not being held in check. Another major issue of our body is our insulin, blood sugar. Is it under control? I mean, there is so many things that blood sugar can do to us. Diabetes can inflame the brain. It can inflame a lot of things. And as we get older, insulin sensitivity can change. But if you're on a program where you're eating a lot of good, healthy fruits and vegetables and proteins and healthy fats, maybe what you really need are the carbohydrates from your spinach and your celery and your blueberries rather than the carbohydrates from uh, key lime pie or chocolate cake or something else. Is your cholesterol under control? I've always been one that has had exceptionally low cholesterol all my life. But cholesterol in and of itself is not an issue. It's oxidized cholesterol. And so they give you a reading. It says, okay, it's this and this. Well, it's not necessarily the cold, hard numbers. It's the ratio of those numbers. And there are things that can be done. Are you a non-smoker? Smoke does affect both our cardiovascular system. It affects our brain. A lot of issues there. And you can add in, well, how much do you drink? Alcohol. Well, that 1 or 2 glasses of wine. Yeah, I've read good and bad on both. If it's an issue, give it up. If it's not an issue, well, stay within the moderation. But again, anything in excess is excess and it becomes a problem. What are some other issues that may not be on the positive side of good brain health, but are something to be aware of? And these are what I lump under the unhealthy brain checklist items. Obviously, if we have a memory loss, and it's usually more in our current memory, our short-term memory, not our memory from 45 years ago. So if all of a sudden, did I see that person this morning? Did I drop that off? Whatever. When you start having short-term memory losses, not just 1 or 2 or 3, but a history, a trend, something you should talk to your doctor about. We live in an emotional age, everybody we interact with. If all of a sudden I develop apathy, I don't care. If I'm anxious, if I have mood swings, these are indicators, they're clues that there's something wrong. Now, is my anxiety just because that's just my normal personality? I always, I'm a worrier. Well, what are you worrying about? Can't you let it go? If I have apathy, is there a cause for it? Is it just a one time only and I'm good for another month? So it's the level of what you have, how often you have it, and the intensity of you have it. It's almost like radiation. It's how close you are to the source, how long you're exposed, and the intensity of that exposure. So each of those things have an issue, but again, it's not in and of itself a single item, but it's something to note. And if it's an issue, start keeping a log, keep a journal so you can talk to your doctor, say, hey, this kind of developed here, and on this day, this is what it was. So you can start looking at a history and actually having something written down. Loss of inhibition. If our brain is operating properly, we have a level of inhibition that we can kind of stay within. If all of a sudden our mood changes, but now we also change our personality and what we're doing, maybe that again is part of this overall. I'm shifting over from a healthy brain to an unhealthy brain. Brain fog we talked about quite a bit during this sixth session, but brain fog, again, similar to memory loss, but maybe we're not, okay, it takes me a little bit longer to think of what that thing is, or just not as clear as it can be. Do I have a lot of fatigue? Fatigue, again, is a clue. What's causing your fatigue? Is it you had too big a spaghetti lunch for dinner and 2 hours later you can't keep your eyes open? Well, there's a cause for that. That's, too much sugar, too much carbohydrates, too much insulin. So, but if I'm having fatigue and I haven't eaten, am I getting good enough sleep? These are things that if you're starting to have a problem, write them down, because if it's written down, it makes it a whole lot easier for your doctor to help diagnose those things. Most of us have a normal level of motivation. If all of a sudden I have this apathy and I'm not motivated to do those things that I used to do, and there's something changing in our lives. And this is a clue. These are things that good, healthy people don't have. Food cravings, yeah, I get them all the time, but they don't stay with me very long, especially if I'm fasting. I'm driving down the street and I smell a burger place or a Chinese place, boy, but that food craving stays for about 10 or 15 seconds. Love to have that, but it's gone. But if that food craving is staying with you for a long period of time, maybe that's, again, a clue. So these are things to pay attention to. If you have energy, sometimes we get that fatigue, but sometimes the bottom just drops out. I can't keep my eyes open. I'm sitting there watching TV. I can't even tell you what the last time I focused on. If you have an energy crash, there's something going on in your body that needs attention. If you can, meditation nightmare, it's kind of an interesting way of describing it. I said inability to focus earlier, but if you're trying to meditate on something and your mind is all over the place, well, that's kind of normal at the beginning of any kind of meditation, unless you're really good at it. But if you're all over the board and you have inability to keep that focus on whatever your meditation is, and you're really up and down, again, make a note. It's maybe a problem. Family history, always something to consider. Uh, what are some common symptoms that we associate with mental illness? Headaches. Uh, Now, the headaches may be a preliminary clue. My brother had headaches for years and years and years, and he was using over-the-counter medicines. Never ever went to see a doctor about it. And after at least a couple decades of just having these blinding headaches, he had a stroke. Literally dead before he hit the ground. Um, he would not go see a doctor. If you're having headaches and it's more than a couple weeks in a row and it's every day and there's something there, you really need to go see somebody. If you're having numbness, your extremities or your part of your body, like something's happening, go see someone. If you're having nausea or vomiting and there's not an obvious cause, uh, there's some foods I don't like. If I end up accidentally eating something because I'm not paying attention or it's hidden in something else. And my wife is allergic to pork. She eats pork. It doesn't take very long, and it's all over the wherever she's at because her body ejects it immediately. But those are things that if you know what it is, okay, I expected that to happen. But if you're having these kind of problems and it's not caused by another illness, it's just there, again, something for you to really pay attention to. Um, is there a change in personality? Sometimes we never know we have a change in personality. And somebody asks us, what's going on? You're not the same. Well, you think you're the same, but when somebody else has to tell you, and that's usually one person in 20, there's 19 other people out there that wants to tell you, but they won't. So if somebody tells you, figure that's a small gaggle of people trying to tell you there's something wrong. If you have difficulty moving, just like I talked about earlier, balance, a strong grip, those things. Our motor skills are dependent on having a good memory, good brain. But if we have difficult moving, that's probably an association with some developing disease or we have an unhealthy brain. Difficulty with balance, changes in our ability to hear, to speak, what we see. These are all indicators because all of these issues go through the brain. And if the brain's operating properly, not a problem. If the brain is having a slight imbalance in something, maybe we're seeing it. What'd you say? Can you speak louder? Uh, all of a sudden you're seeing double or whatever. These are all little bitty clues that are telling you something's going wrong. And this is what you and your doctor need to talk about. Now, what are some of the symptoms of neurodegenerative disease? Because we just talked about having an unhealthy brain. Well, what if this thing gets into the level of having actually some kind of neurological disease? Well, the symptoms are very, very similar. And we talked about this with almost every single one of the major mental illnesses. We get memory loss, apathy, anxiety, depression. But we know that anxiety and depression can happen just from having B vitamin deficiencies. We know that B12 deficiency mimics Alzheimer's. So there's a lot of things there. But again, we need to be paying attention as to what these are, write them down so that when we're talking to somebody who has that experience to help decipher everything, well, what are you eating? And a lot of times they'll make decisions not on what you have, but on unknown things. So if they're not getting into your diet and your exercise program and everything else, maybe you need to add that to the list. What are the typical mental illnesses? We talked about all of these things at length earlier, but dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. Didn't go into epilepsy too much, but fasting is a very good temporary solution for epilepsy. A stroke, we didn't go into that either because it's an event that happens and not necessarily a mental illness. But if you have enough of I believe it's the alpha tocotrienol, one of the 8 molecules that makes up vitamin E, it has a tendency to moderate any side effects from a stroke. Multiple sclerosis, again, autoimmune disease, depression, anxiety, ADD, ADHD, OCD, all those Ds. But these are things that we talked about, almost every single one of them in some level of detail. What are some non-prescription things we can think of? Obviously, you got to talk to your physician. Make sure that that person understands your entire lifestyle. What's going on? How much do you exercise? How much stress relief do you do? What are you eating? How good is your sleep? How much are you drinking? Those are things that really you need to share with that person. Are you having balanced nutrition? Do you have a problem with weight management? Are you doing stress management on a daily basis? Some people need to be doing it every 3 or 4 hours. Are you getting regular checkups? This may be something you can do at the house because you have the equipment there to do it. Take your blood pressure or whatever it may happen to be. Are you getting quality sleep? These are good indicators of things that work well when everything is normal. Are you getting enough exercise? Do you socialize with other people regularly? Are you getting cardiovascular checkups? If you start having a cardiovascular issue, high blood pressure, whatever it may happen to be, you need to do those follow-ups because these are very, very important. And a lot of times, okay, I'm taking a pill. Well, you really need to go back periodically and make sure that that pill is really working because the one pathway that caused that particular symptom to be treated well by a pill may be very well treated by that pill, but another pathway may be opening up that you're unaware of, and maybe you need to take 2 pills, God forbid, but those things happen. Are you managing your sugar properly? Is your gut health really and truly where it should be? These are things that we really and truly need to know about. So I can be reached at red@red.olaughlin.com. It's red like the color, RED, O'Laughlin, OLAUGHLIN. So it's red@red.olaughlin.com. My website, red.olaughlin.com, has my contact information also. I'm a speaker, I'm an author, I'm a publisher. My Joy of Ageless Health book is available on my website, also on Amazon. It's a #1 best-selling book. My Longevity Secrets for Healthy Aging talks about the 2 primary causes of aging and what you can do to accelerate or decelerate the aging process. The Joy of Ageless Health talks about the 6 or 7, 8 different processes that disease develops in the body and what you can do about each one of them. And so those are the things that I've been talking about and love to talk about here on Talking Heads. I cannot promise you what the next segment's going to be, but it will be interesting, challenging, and enjoyable. And so we're finishing up today on our brain health and mental illness, and I really feel good about it. Thank you so very much for having me. And we're on the USA Global TV and Radio Network Talking Heads channel. And thank you again, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck.